Hey traders, welcome to a trade overview. So in this video, we're going to be covering 3 different trades that we took within, I guess, a similar time span or almost the same time span. The 3 are going to be Link, TRX, and ETC. And for people who don't know, Link is Chainlink, TRX is Tron, and ETC is Ethereum Classic. So we'll go over Link and TRX first, which were our big winners, and then we will go over ETC, and that was a loss. So we'll just be covering quickly why we entered the trade, what did we do while the trade was going, and how we took our profits and all that stuff, basically, how we managed the trade overall. So let's start off with Link. We got an entry at, let's see what the price was. Oh, give me one moment here. The price was 2.8134 and our stop loss was 2.7695. So looking at the overall daily chart, we can see that the price was on a strong uptrend. We were coming to a key level of supply, which was this 2 white lines right here, and that's where our take profits were located for the most part. We were holding an ascending trend line that we were using to have as a support level, and then we also saw a descending zone that was squeezing the price. So this was the descending resistance, and then we had a long-term dependable support. So the price was bouncing off resistance to support, and then we were seeing a squeeze in the price, and that is our edge. We are able to capture profits from the squeeze because once the price makes a choice to make either a break of the resistance or support, then we look to potentially enter after a validation of price action. So let's look at the 4-hour chart of exactly what's happening. We saw a nice descending zone. This was a very respected, dependable area, as well as our support here, and this was the apex of the pattern, and we were waiting patiently for the price to make either break in the resistance or break in support. The price made a break to the support. We had the previous resistance used as a resistance yet again, and which was good, and we're looking for the nice pullback. We don't want to enter right at the breakout. We're looking for the pullback after the completion of the exhaustion move, and then we look to enter before the initiation of the next impulse move to make a new high. So that's exactly what happened. We saw the 4-hour close red, and then we saw the next green, the next 4-hour turn green. So there was a bearish move pullback, and then we saw some buy volume come into the market, and the 1 hour is going to be our execution standpoint. So I just wanted to illustrate the 4-hour chart before moving to the 1-hour chart, seeing the valid levels and using them for our advantage. So this is exactly the time frame we use to enter. So we'll discuss our exact entry points. So after we broke our key level of resistance, we used it for support. We're looking for key injection zones within the price. So we're looking for buyers that are buying up the pair when the price is coming back and retesting key levels within the chart. So we're looking for zones of confluence where we can have dependable areas where we can assume price is going to be located. Where buyers is going to be located. So the first area is going to be our descending zone, which we've already identified. This zone right here is going to be a previous level of resistance, which is going to turn into a new level of support. So that was our first key zone we wanted to identify. The second zone we wanted to identify is our horizontal zone. We can see that within the gray zone right here. It is, as we can see, a previous level of resistance as well as support. So it's a well-defined, well-respected zone within the chart. So now we have 2 areas within the chart where we can assume we'll have some level of buy pressure because we've seen it in the past. Now we're not just looking to enter right when the retest comes at the first sign of a little bit of a pullback. We want to see that there is a amount of buyers coming in that is going to validate us risking money in order to gain exposure within the market. So we're looking for injections of buy volume. We're looking to get a validation of buyers present within our area before we look to enter. So what we're looking for is injections of buy pressure. So we see the push to the upside, we see the price hold, we see our pullback, and then we see our first injection of buy pressure, which is going to be these 4 candles right here. That is, to me, a signifying buyer or a group of buyers pushing the price up, seeing that this level is yes and indeed a demand zone. So that's our first injection of buy pressure right here. So we then hit our resistance point, which we bounced off initially. We hit it again, and then we slowly fall back down, and then we see yet again another area where buy pressure is present. So this is now, that was not a very good arrow. So this is now our second indication that there's buy pressure within the market. So we have two verifications that there is buy pressure within the market. We push up with a strong bullish candle closing very close to the high of the wick there. Very strong. I like to see that. And then we get resisted by a lower high. And then we come back down again, hitting our zone of demand for the third time. And then what do we see? We see a strong bullish candle for our third injection of buy pressure. This to me is a signification that there is buyers within the market. We see now three indications that there is buy pressure within the market, as well as the price within our zone of confluence that has a high probability that there's going to be buyers within that area. So we have a lot of things going into a single trade that give us indications that there are buyers within the area. We have not just two, but three confirmations, 1, 2, 3, that there are buyers already present in the area, holding a price above a certain zone, not letting it go below our area of support. So there is a lot of indications within the price, within the chart, that is signifying that there is bulls in the area looking to enter, holding the price above key levels of support, which is why we entered at this point here after we got our third confirmation. So once we got our third confirmation, we entered at the candle closure on the 1 hour. Very shortly after, we made the price to move back up to our previous level of resistance. We did get held up for a few 1 hour candles, but inevitably we did break to the upside, and then we held this previous resistance as a new level of support with wicks coming really close below our zone to our stop loss. But what we did, as soon as we hit our first take profit, which was right here, we moved our stop loss to break even. That's what we do every single time. First take profit was at the previous highs there with a risk reward of 2 to 1 at a minimum, which is going to be right here. Once we hit that zone, we moved stop loss to break even, and then we just chilled. We did not do anything. We put our hands underneath our butts and had a stop loss right here and let the trade do its thing. We did get this bearish candle here, almost hitting our stop loss, but we were a little bit far away that it didn't actually trigger, which was very nice. And then we stuck within this consolidation, not doing anything, still being very patient. And then we hit our second take profit level, which was right here. And then very shortly after we hit our take profit level, we then moved our stop loss, which was initially here, to break even. And then we moved it all the way up to this area right here, where then we found our level of support here, and we put our stop loss below our level of support. And then shortly after, we hit our third take profit. So that was how we managed this particular trade. That's why we entered. That's why we took profits where we did. We didn't really talk about take profits, but if you look at the overall time frame on the bigger chart, that's how we basically managed this trade. And we talked about it within the Discord, but we have been setting hard take profits, meaning if it hits that zone, we already have orders in place within the market that's going to take profit. But we have discussed about dynamic take profits. Well, the majority of the take profit will be a hard TP, meaning we're going to take profit right when the price hits that zone. But as the bull run commences, as we see more speculation and greed and buy pressure and bullish momentum come into the market, especially for the alts, it may be starting to look like a good idea to set dynamic take profits, where we're going to not set hard TPs, like actually setting orders, but seeing how the price action goes, seeing if we're breaking highs, breaking resistances, holding supports, all that stuff. Because if a trend is continuing, there's no reason to take profits completely. I'm a firm believer that you should be setting some take profits that are hard take profits that kind of guarantee that risk reward you're looking for. And if the price continues towards the intended direction, that's great. Set trailing stop losses, but I do think setting hard take profits is definitely a great strategy to ensure that you're going to have that consistency you're looking for. So that is Link. We will now go to TRX. Another trade that hit all of our take profits, very solid trade overall. And let's just quickly go on the 4-hour to discuss exactly why we entered this trade. We can even go to the daily chart to really discuss why we were looking to enter this particular setup. So let's go to the daily chart and discuss what we were looking for, what we saw, and why we entered. So we see we saw a big double bottom here, and that's why we were looking to go to the upside, as well as BTC looking pretty bullish. So we saw this big double bottom here that was a solid potential, and then obviously with double bottoms, we're looking for the price to reach our key level of resistance, which is right here. So we were also above a strong level of support, which is going to be the mid-range zone for our price action pattern. So this is the supply zone because of the double bottom, and then we usually have a mid-range zone within the double bottom, and then we have a demand zone, which is the bottom of the double bottom, which we can see right here. So we're basically trying to go from mid-range zone to the supply zone, which is what we're trying to do for most of our trades, is go from range to range, from zone to zone, and we did exactly that. So we saw the push to the upside, a pullback, and we saw the price hold on the daily candles. That's a strong hold for us, which looks really good. And then we were basically right above our previous level of both resistance and support. We can see it's very, very well respected on this daily chart for Tron. So it's a dependable area that we can use. And once we're above it, we do see that there is more volume accumulation occurring. So there's more buy pressure coming into the market compared to the sell pressure. We're breaking resistances, holding supports. We're making higher highs and higher lows. There's a lot of things that are pushing this price towards at least the supply zone here, because we've already seen the second bottom come in of the double bottom. And now we're above the mid-range zone. So we're basically just trying to get from the mid-range zone to our supply zone, which is a pretty high probability situation, especially when the market is looking bullish. So overall on the daily, that's why we entered. We broke our mid-range zone, and then it was holding it as a new level of resistance before we looked to enter it, and that's why we were looking to enter, because on the bigger time frames we were breaking strong levels of resistances and holding it, and we saw strong bullish volume come in, and the zone from mid-range to supply zone on the double bottom is a pretty high probabilistic situation to be in, especially when the market sentiment is in your favor. So now let's talk about the 4-hour and what we were looking for. And we do see we were in a consolidation for a little while, that is definitely for sure, but we were very patient and stuck through it. So this was kind of like a cup and handle, where we saw the consolidation right here, and then we saw the descending trend line connect the lower highs. Once we broke that, we got our strong bullish push, breaking our previous level of resistance. We were also in this trade as well, I believe. And then we pushed up above our strong mid-range resistance, which is going to be our new level of support. We held for, I believe, 3 touches, and then we looked to enter. So we wanted 3 injections of buy pressure on the hour chart before we looked to enter. So let's look at this trade here and see what we're able to identify. Also, I did have a minor level of a trend line like so. So let's just draw that in and zoom in a little bit more and discuss exactly why we entered. So let's just draw it exactly how we drew it when we had this in our chart there. So we had that system like so, and then also we actually entered at this point here, not on this bounce. So this is why exactly we entered. Just make it a little bit easier to see for everyone. All right, so let's talk about this entry. So first of all, we were above our strong mid-range zone, which is going to be our first indication that there's buy pressure within the area. We're also looking for confirmation that there is buy pressure within the area, within the consolidation on the 1-hour chart. So first off, we see a push. I don't really call this a breakout. Once we see the price break out to around here, then I definitely can classify it as a breakout. We see the pullback, so we closed on the 4-hour at the highs there because we see 4 1-hour candles, which is a close on the 4-hour. We then pulled back. We got our first injection of buy volume here, pushing the price up, forming a lower high. We did then make a lower low but on the 1 hour chart, this is a zone, so I classify this entire area as a support zone. So this is still seeing the retest appear. This is, for me, not a crazy indication that we're going to continue just go like this, because the zone is what we're trying to hold above. I don't mind if it's still within the zone. So we see the low, hold, and this is our second injection of buy volume coming into the market. So we see our first one right here. This is number 1 of injection of buy volume, and this is number 2 injection of buy volume. And then at this point, I see a nice little descending trend line where we see an anchor point 2, and then the price hold for a 3. Once we have 3 touches of a trend line, I can then have it as a potentially dependable zone. And then once we have our 4th touch, then it is a dependable zone. So at this point, it's looking pretty good. We have a potentially dependable zone on the downside with 3 touches of a new trend line that does look like a level of significance. And then zooming in a little bit more, we can see that once we hit our 2nd touch of our trend line, so we have our pushes. So this is our first push, and this is our second push, our injection of buy volume. So that is going to signify that yes, we do have buyers within this range. It's looking pretty good. And then what we wanted to see is a break of this descending trend line, and that's exactly what we got. We got initially a break and then a hold right here. We got the price to break above, and then it held, and then it pulled back, and then we were looking for buyers to come back in one more time. And that's exactly what happened. We got buyers to come back in within this candle, which signified that there is bullish pressure within the market. So this is our start of our 3rd wave. So we got our 1st wave, our 2nd wave, and then we got the start of our 3rd wave, which is going to signify bullish volume coming in for the 3rd time. And that for me was enough to enter within this pair. And also just looking at the volume within the consolidation zones, yes, we do see a lot of sell pressure on the way down, but within the consolidation, overall, I did think that there was more buy volume than sell volume, and also on the push and pullback, we do see there is more buy volume than sell volume. If you're looking at the bigger time frames, looking at the push exhaustion phases, the push phase, which is going to be right here, with the push phase, has more buy volume than the pullback phase, which is going to be this phase right here. So it does still look like there is bullish volume, bullish accumulation occurring within the price action. That looks pretty good. So that's why I entered. We got 1, 2, and then the initiation for the 3rd push on a very strong level of support, which is this guy right here. So overall, that was our reason for entering this particular trade. And then we held, and then what we did after, within this whole consolidation, is we very, very slowly, patiently moved our stop loss up very slowly. So initially our stop loss was below this zone, and then what we did is like right below the zone, so basically right there. Once we saw this low come in after rejecting off the resistance, we then moved our stop loss to above that zone. So initially our stop loss was here, so this is our first area for stop loss, and then we moved our stop loss here just below this zone. So this is where our stop loss was, and then the price continued to make a new resistance touch right here, still not being able to pass it. We did not take profits at this zone. We continued to hold, and there we basically just held and held basically until we broke the zone here, and then we moved our stop loss up. But we did not move our stop loss up even when we had the price hit the zone, because we were confident in the setup overall. And then once we saw this low, we moved our stop loss above this low. So we had 3 moves up on the stop loss before we hit our first take profit, which we usually just leave a stop loss until it hits our first TP1. But in this situation, because we were holding below this resistance very well and very respected, we wanted to ensure that we're slowly, incrementally moving our stop loss up. So we moved it up a little bit from here to here, and then we moved it up from here to around here. So it's a slow move up, but we wanted to reduce our risk a little bit, and that's exactly what we did. So once we saw the price hit our first take profit zone, then we'll talk about trade management a little bit more. So once we saw the price hit our first take profit zone, which was right here, then we moved our stop loss just below this previous low. It's going to be a support because previously it was a strong level of resistance, which is now going to be our new level of support. So what we did is once we hit our TP1, we moved our stop loss up just to here, and then we did not do anything after that point. We just let the trade sit tight. we took profits here, and then once we hit our second TP zone, which was right here, we moved our stop loss below this zone. So that's exactly how we played it out. So initially we had our stop loss below here, we moved it below here once we saw the price start to consolidate and form a nice little support right here. So this was our support, and then we moved our stop loss from here to there to now there, because we want to reduce risk and increase the profit even if we do see the price come towards the downside. So we basically had the nice jump from our TP1 right to TP2, almost hitting TP3, moved our stop loss higher up. We did not hit the stop loss, and then we hit our TP3, and then the trade was complete. We were completely out of the trade, and then now we saw the price break our new level of support and then look like it's making a move to the downside. We could have a little pullback, but it does look like it's making a move to the downside. So very, very well played trade for patience. We really tested our patience. We were not going to take profit. Once we saw the slow climb up here, we were going to patiently wait it out, stick with the plan, stick with the trade plan, and that's exactly what we did, and it paid well. We hit all of our take profit levels. We cut losses, or we took profit when we should have. We moved our stop loss higher up incrementally while we saw the price move up. Overall, well played, well managed trade, and I'm very happy with the outcome of these two current trades that we took. So now let's look at ETC. This is the trade that we took that didn't play out. We took it in a similar time frame as the other trades. Didn't have nearly as good as a take profit, or sorry, a risk reward, and we didn't actually set our take profit at the low here. It was right here is where we set our stop loss, not all the way down here. So let's just put that zone in because I can't really see it. So it's going to be right here. This is where we set our stop loss, because you might not be able to see it very well. But overall, let's go on the daily chart to discuss exactly what we saw. I don't know why it's all the way down here. I guess it's because it's holding where the price currently is. But anyways, let's discuss what we're able to find out on the daily chart, and then we'll talk about it on the smaller time frames. So we see that there's a big double bottom that broke out. We are now above the breakout point. So this is the breakout point of the double bottom. So we see a double bottom right here, and this is the key breakout point. We can see that right here. So the price broke out of the key zone, and now it's in a breakout. It's seen a lot of very bullish volume, huge R-vol, way more volume than really we've ever seen in the chart period. Maybe from this point here a little bit, but it's pretty unprecedented to see how much volume that we've seen in ETC, which is a really good thing for us traders. So we are basically holding a support. The price was above our mid-range zone, which is this guy right here, previous level of resistance as well as support. And we were trying to make it to our next zone of supply, which is right here. So we're basically trying to go from zone to zone on the daily chart, which is our goal. And that's why we set our take profits at these zones. I think a little bit it would be a little bit greedy to try to go for the next zone. So we stuck it out and just had a take profit that was, I thought, somewhat attainable, where we went from zone to zone, from support to resistance in the previous price action. So that is how the structure of the daily was looking. On the 4-hour time frame, we can see that we were in a squeeze where we saw the price get squeezed into a funnel kind of, and then we were playing the squeeze, hoping to see the price continue towards its intended direction of the squeeze. So we were seeing a very well respected support there, and then we also saw a descending zone that was in confluence with a horizontal zone, and we'll discuss that on the 1-hour chart. So the descending zone was a little bit less respected than the horizontal zone, but the horizontal zone was really the area that signified that there was going to be a potential area of buyers, which there was, but unfortunately we did not actually have the momentum to go all the way to our take profit area. So first off, the thing we want to really see is this mid-range zone that we located on the daily is first a key level of support all here, and then it turned into a key resistance all here, and then it turned into a resistance right here, and then it, for us, looked like it was going to turn into a support right here. That was our first reason that we wanted to look for a long, is because we were now above our zone. Like we saw here, it has a tendency to stick above if it does actually go get above that area, And then we can see right here, we did get not just one, but two validations that there's buy pressure within the area. And then we also saw a descending zone with our first anchor point at this point. And then we saw 1, 2, and then we saw a third touch giving us a 3 touch area that there's going to be buy pressure within the area. Remember, the third touch makes it a dependable zone, or a potentially dependable zone. And then once there's 4 touches, then we can be reassured that it is a dependable zone. But we have 3 touches on here. We see 1, 2. Well, I guess we could count it as 2 there, but I count it as 1 and then 3, so it's potentially a dependable zone. And then we retest that zone for a new level of support. Not once, but we see 2 key areas where there is buy injections. Let's just zoom in even more. So I was looking at the order book while the price was coming in as well, but also looking at the push exhaustion volume. So look at the push and exhaustion. We see so much buy volume coming in compared to the sell volume. So this is the pullback. We see really no amount of sell pressure on the pullback, as well as this pullback here. We don't really see any sell pressure come into the market compared to what we see on the buy volume on the way up. For the buy volume, we see a tremendous amount of buy volume compared to the sell volume. That for me is major discrepancy versus volume accumulation and volume distribution, which is going to play a huge part in a potential move to the upside. We also see that we are now holding our zone of confluence, and we see our first wave of buy injections coming into the market. And then after this bullish candle closure right here, I was really looking to see some more buy volume coming into the market, and I was hoping to see the bulls push the price here and close. But once I saw that the bulls were really pushing the price up, I entered not on a candle closure. I really like to wait for candle closures on the 1 hour. On this particular trade, I did not. I entered while the bulls were still pushing the price up, and this was my entry right there. And I set a stop loss below this zone right here. I think it might have been below this zone. We'll just check. But I set a stop loss below the previous zone with a pretty good stop loss set. So set it right there. So I guess in between this zone with this zone, so it's not going to set all below here, but it is significantly lower than that area. So that was my trade signal of an entry, and the first key zone that I really wanted to see the price pass was their previous level of resistance, which it did basically instantly right after I entered, which is really good. And then we closed above this zone and held it on the 1 hour, which is good to see. And then unfortunately, overnight, I went to bed around like here. That was like around 11 p.m. where I am. And then I went to bed, and then we saw a drop very quickly after. It would have been nice to see the price hold this zone, like, let's just take a snip here. So we saw the price break out, retest the zone, push, get held twice, create a double bottom where we have 2 validations that there's going to be buy pressure within the zone. We see another push of buy volume. So now we're just breaking resistances, holding support so well. So we see a push, pullback, push, 2 pullbacks, push, and a pullback holding this zone. It just looks like a bullish, like it looks great, like in terms of the bullish pushes and the holding of the new levels of support. So overall, I know this was a loss, and it hit our stop loss basically right away. But I'm very happy with this entry, even though we hit a stop loss. The indications for me were there that there's going to be buyers within the area. Yeah, you could kind of nitpick it out. There's less buy volume coming in, but overall, I can't really get upset at this entry, even though it was a loss. The take profits were at good levels. The risk reward was great. The pushes up, the pullbacks were holding very well. Overall, I'm happy with this trade setup. Just looking at the risk reward, if we averaged between the two, it was looking like a risk reward of 3.38. So unfortunately, we did not hit the take profits. But if we're just taking risk rewards of over 3 on a daily basis every single time we trade, we're looking really good. We don't even need to win 50% of the time in order to be profitable. And recently, with the bullish sentiment coming in, we're definitely making those solid trades like we want. So this was the loss. I hope you learned something from this loss. As traders, we have to take losses. It is inevitable. We will never ever trade without having small losses that occur within a week or within a month, whatever the case may be. You have to take those small losses, and as a trader, even being right 50% of the time can make you a substantial amount of money as long as you have your risk reward parameters and you're actually being patient enough to let your winners run and let them hit your take profits. If you're taking trades at a 1-to-1 risk reward every single time, you need to win more than 50% of the time in order to actually be profitable, counting commissions and fees and all that stuff. That is something that is challenging for most, in my opinion, as a trader. So if you're providing yourself the option to have a little bit more flexibility just by practicing and learning how to become more patient will definitely help you out in the long run, in my opinion. So I hope you got something from our 3 trades that we took, our 2 trades that were profitable, Link and TRX. ETC, that was a lot. We do like to show our losses. We are not going to try to present a system that has no losses, because we do lose as traders. It definitely happens, and the sooner I think people understand that losing is a part of the game, and the quicker you have the psychological mindset of saying, I'm very comfortably going to take this loss, because the quicker I can manage my risk and just say, okay, this was completely wrong. I'm not right. I'll take the loss. I'll take the small loss, and I will preserve my capital. So then, for the next trade I take that could potentially be a winner, then I will have obviously much more capital preserved to ensure that I'm going to make money in the next one. So that's a little bit of psychology. I hope you got something from this video. It says that my stream is offline. Hopefully it's not.